So once in every 4 years, a lot of Indians gather around to see sports that they necessarily might not have been following year round in the hope of seeing the nation achieve glory on the world stage. So Paris 2024 is here, and unlike other times, there's only been a gap of 3 years because Tokyo 2020 happened in 21 because of COVID. So Ayaz, let's get into the Indian contingent and their chances. And of course, we'll start with the poster boy of Indian athletics, Neeraj Chopra, who won gold in Tokyo and became the only person to win an individual gold medal for India after independence in athletics. So his big advantage, I think, is that he is more consistent than his rivals. I mean, he still hasn't breached that like important 90-meter mark which some of his rivals have. Most importantly, Pakistan Arshad Nadeem. But I think he has been more consistent in that 87, 88 range, and he's been more consistent than his rivals leading into Paris. So what do you make of his chances?
Well, I think, look, he's been a game changer, hasn't he, Anirudh? Neeraj Chopra. I mean, who would have thought that he would win the gold at Tokyo? And the way he did it, in what style, with what aplomb, has just kind of put him on the world stage. And since then, he's not really looked back. I mean, he's not always won the gold, but he's won it more often than not. Consistency, as you mentioned, has been his strongest virtue. It's been the hallmark of his performances. And while he's not reached the 90-meter mark, which a few of the other javelin throwers have done, well, look at it the other way. I mean, who's won so many medals or so many, accolades in the last 3-4 years? So he's really the golden boy of Indian athletics, and not just of Indian athletics. I think now the eyes of the world are trained on him because everybody knows that you've got, maybe a once in a lifetime performer here. He's been a game changer, no doubt, where Indian Olympic disciplines are concerned, not just in track and field, but the way he's inspired other athletes from other disciplines to come and give off their best. I think that's been his singular contribution to Indian sport. And I think everybody is still, I mean, now again looking forward to Neeraj Chopra inspiring a fantastic kind of overall performance by India at Paris.
Yeah, and so from Neeraj, the success story of Tokyo, we go to the disappointment of the shooting contingent in Tokyo, who returned empty-handed. Now, this time India sent its largest ever contingent in shooting with 21 athletes. And do you think they'll be able to? I mean, some of them don't have that baggage. Some of them are in the same squad from 21. But do you think they'll be able to put that past them and get a few medals, hopefully?
Well, they have to. I mean, they should. The shooting contingent, as you mentioned, is fairly large. They've got a lot of support. Some of them from the top scheme, some of them otherwise from the federation. There's been a lot of international experience that they've garnered. I think what's happened in the last Olympics, certainly, where the performances were not up to the mark, not as much as, not as good as expected. Sometimes there's stage fright. On the big occasion, you kind of lose your nerve. Now, that is something that these shooters certainly, apart from all the other athletes, have to leave, put behind them. When you're at the Olympics, with all the training, the drills, the kind of build up that you've done, physically, mentally, temperamentally, psychologically, emotionally, this is the crunch. This is the situation, or this is the position in which you have to deliver. So I'm hopeful. There are so many events in shooting that if the Indian contingent does well, then it automatically starts swelling up the kitty.
Yes. And from that, we move on to a sport that India dominated in the early years of the Olympics, which is, of course, hockey. And they reached somewhere near that pinnacle last time with that bronze medal after 41 years. Now, you and I spoke to Harmanpreet Singh and coach Fulton last August, just before the Asian Games, and they won the Asian Games to get automatic qualification for the Olympics. But their form recently hasn't been up to the mark. So, what do you think is going on in their minds?
I think it's a very, very difficult, tough sport, as we spoke to Harmanpreet and Fulton the other time,
Yeah.
last year. Look, the difference between the top 7, 8, maybe the 10 teams is minuscule, and I think that you have not a bad day. You have 5 minutes of poor play and your goose could be cooked. That's how stiff the competition is. And especially with this, rolling substitution which happens where players have to be performing at 125% of their capacity, so to speak, and not even 100%. So there are serious challenges for India. Winning the bronze was terrific at Tokyo, but again, like we said about Neeraj, the hallmark of good teams, you were saying great teams, just good teams, is consistency. So if you go up and down or this way and that way like a yo-yo and are not consistent enough, then that's not good enough. So I think there is a serious challenge ahead for India. But as I mentioned, the other way of looking at it is the difference between say India and England or Germany and Netherlands and Australia is not as huge as it used to be maybe 5, 6, 7 years, 8 years ago. So that's a heartening aspect. Then of course it depends on really what you do on the field of play.
Yeah. And we move on to another athlete who won bronze in Tokyo, that was PV Sindhu. And this time, if she wins another medal, she'll be the only individual medalist with three, because I think two of the players in the hockey generation, the Hanchand's era, had four, but that was in a team sport. Sindhu, if she gets one here, will have three, which is humongous. But again, her form has also not been great, and perhaps Chirag Satwik, that men's doubles teams, looks more par for the course to win the medal. So, how do you look at the whole badminton scene?
I think badminton is again one of our big hopes. I mean, we've been able to successfully break the hegemony of the Chinese on the sport. We've kept players from Japan, Korea, the Koreas, Malaysia, Indonesia at bay. I mean, India is a powerhouse of badminton talent. But now, of course, it's about winning medals. Sindhu has won two already, two Olympic medals. That's
Yeah.
hey, that's enough to kind of bask for the rest of your life in glory. But she's in line for a third if she performs well. She's had serious troughs and now she's started coming back. Is this has she gathered enough momentum to get a medal at Paris? We'll have to wait and see. But I think she is a serious contender. I think there's too much scrutiny sometimes on Sindhu when she's had her failures. It's a very tough sport. Living on the road is not easy. And when you look at the way she has, I think she's grappled a bit seriously about even her own shortcomings in the mental sense, not just the physical sense, because you can get all the coaches you want, the best of them, train for hours on end on the court, but unless you're mentally just completely so focused that there's no distraction, not even an iota, you could be you may not be at your best. So I think Sindhu herself senses that this could be her last opportunity for another Olympic medal. Another 4 year wait may be just too tough for any badminton player, not just Sindhu. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, she's teamed up with Prakash in the last maybe a year or 8, 10 months, and hopefully this experience of allying with one of the all-time greats of badminton in India will help her win a medal this time.
Yeah. So from an Olympic veteran in Sindhu, we go to someone who wants to take the world by storm, which is Nikhil Zareen in boxing. So she had been in the shadow of Mary Kom for a long time, and now she's broken through. And she's a two-time world champion, and she's been in good form heading into the Olympics. And she is with Lavlina Borgohain from Assam, who won bronze last time, and both of them seem to be in pretty good form. But not a lot of boxers on display, but these two are certainly bright spots.
They are very bright spots, and see, especially Nikat. I mean, whoever I've spoken to, and she trains at the Inspire Institute of Sports in South India, and some of the coaches there, they speak so highly of her commitment, of her skills, and of her the desire to go out and win. Nikat has everything that it takes to win a medal, as we say. I mean, the fact is that she's won the world championship twice, which shows you where she is in the stratosphere of women boxers. So again, as I mentioned, the Olympics is a big occasion. It's the biggest platform that any athlete can think of. So you have to get your not just your A game, but triple A game. In you have to be with your triple A game when you're in the bout in the ring, and not just in one bout, in all the bouts right up to the final.
Yeah. And lastly, to me personally, the most controversial discipline and how people got there is, of course, wrestling, with all the whole mess in the WFI and the allegations against former President Brij Bhushan Singh, who's now apparently gotten a guy as president who's from his own cabal. So the story is from Vinesh Phogat, who was on the streets of Delhi protesting and almost didn't make it to the Olympics. Now she's there and she's trying for her first medal. Of course, there are youngsters in the contingent, including Antim Pangal and Aman Sehrawat, the only male wrestler. But what an end to this story it would be if Vinesh gets a medal.
it would be a saga. It's already a saga. Vinesh's fight against, the kind of authoritarianism of the federation, the kind of the charges that were made and which were, I think, should have been scrutinized thoroughly and with very strictly, which didn't happen. But she's fought back. I mean, you spend weeks and weeks on the streets of Delhi protesting and almost giving up hope that you'll ever get into the ring again, onto the mat. And here she is representing India in the Olympics. They couldn't keep her down. She's unputdownable. She's irrepressible. Now, the interesting part is I think there are 5 women wrestlers and 1 male. Am I right on that, Anirudh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it shows you the depth of wrestling talent that there exists in India. You could some would turn around and say, hey, listen, didn't the federation kind of, look after these women wrestlers and give them an opportunity? Yes, it's one way of looking at it, but look at it the other way. I mean, how much these girls have had to struggle and fight to remain in the limelight. And what of the others who could have also been, giving their own mates, so to speak, tough competition to qualify for the Olympics or been in the Olympics with a larger contingent. We can only, kind of speculate. But I'm extremely happy that Vignesh has qualified for the Olympics, and obviously, if she wins the medal, not only her, but I think everybody in India will be over the moon.
Yeah, we'll all be over the moon, and we'll keep bringing you updates from the Olympics as the days go by. And also, I wanted to plug here that the latest issue of the week has an Olympic cover, and it's an exhaustive cover package. And Ayaz also has written a story about his experience in the 1988
Ben Johnson
Seoul
versus
Olympics.
Carl Lewis.
So, yes, Ben Johnson versus Carl Lewis. What a race that was. And a lot of other stories, a lot of exclusives. So please do check that out, and we'll keep bringing you the updates. So that's it for this episode of Sports Room. We'll see you next time.